Hello everyone, welcome to the Ubuntu client Q&A session. This is going to be an open question and answer period for anything that you want to ask us. We have engineering managers on to talk about the work going on the phone, on the desktop, and the overall convergence strategy that we're taking for both of those. I know we've had a lot of discussions yesterday and on Tuesday about where these things are going, the introduction of Snappy and all of the things that that's going to introduce and make possible. So I'm sure that a lot of people here have questions. We are in #ubuntu-uos-convergence. Or if you go and you find our session on summit.ubuntu.com, you'll have the video and the IRC there, both. If you can, start your questions with the word question in all capital letters. That way it turns bright yellow for me, and I will be able to pick it up and ask these guys that. All right, so we will go ahead and get started. Could each of you introduce yourselves and tell everyone what part of Ubuntu you're working on? I guess we'll start with Ollie.
All right. So my name is Ollie Rees. Ollie on IRC. I am responsible for everything client on Ubuntu on a distribution, from a distribution perspective. So that includes Ubuntu Desktop, as you know it today, the Debian-based distribution, and then the phone and tablet and whatever else we do in that realm. And yep, that's what I do here. Will.
Right. I'm Will Cook. I work for Ollie, and I manage the desktop team.
I think I work for you.
And Victor.
Hi, I'm Victor Palau. I run the engineering team that does the commercial projects for the client part. So everything Will and Ollie do, and then we make it into phones and PCs and what have you not within my team.
All right, so there you go. Desktop, phone, and both of them together. All right, start getting the questions in. We already have a couple. We'll go ahead and get started. Akiva is asking, are the first two phones meant to converge, or are these about getting software down?
That's a good question.
The BQ phones have already come out, and they don't have the ability to turn into a desktop if you dock them.
Right. I think that's going to be, yeah, I mean, these two phones first devices are about the phone software part, and the convergence there is about convergence of same apps that can then run on the desktop in Unity 8 and similar packages running on the phone and on the desktop, but we don't expect them to upgrade them to be able to have the capability to have a desktop experience.
So that's the BQ and the already announced Meizu phone.
Meizu, that's right.
Okay. But Mark did say in his keynote that we are going to have a device that can do both coming out.
So we have committed with a partner to do a device that will be suitable for converged use case, so in terms of hardware specs and so on, and providing that Will gets the software in time, you will have it. No pressure.
So Will has also told me that evidently my Nexus 4 can do this if I get the right kind of plug for it. So
yes,
I'm looking forward to trying that out. All right, Just Caracas asks, what was your favorite track of the UDS, or UOS, as it properly is?
So for me, it was Convergence and Snappy. Tried to juggle between both. You know, Convergence, I'm deeply involved in that, obviously, and Snappy, you know, is something that we will start to embrace, as I mentioned earlier. But generally, it's just like a really exciting, cool thing. So I try to catch up what the team is discussing as much as I can. How about others?
Yeah, pretty much. That's the same for me. The convergence track is my main focus, and it's been good to listen into the conversations that are going on and see the sorts of questions that people are asking, because we need to make sure that everybody is understanding what it is that we're building, why we're building it, and what the features will be when it's first ready for testing. But I've also been trying to watch all of the other sessions, like from Snappy, for example, so that I can really get a handle on how those technologies work.
For me, kind of Snappy and Snappy Personal will be the most interesting ones going forward. So I kind of keeping an eye on that and see how it develops.
So Snappy Personal, for those that weren't following the earlier sessions, that's the Snappy-based images that are going to be used for phone and desktop, right?
Right, and
as opposed to the Snappy Core, which is more Internet of Things and cloud stuff.
Right. And those are project names. We still have to sit together with marketing and think about a proper name. Probably it's going to be Snappy.
It's probably going to stick. Yeah.
But at least I said it. So everybody on the press, please keep that in mind. If you write an article, that's a project name so far.
Yeah. Kind of like Ubuntu Touch in that way. It was
right.
a useful way of distinguishing something we didn't want to necessarily use, but it's kind of caught on.
Yeah,
I'll go ahead and answer this one too, because it seems kind of broad enough. I've bounced back and forth between the community and the Convergence track, so I've enjoyed both of those. Really, what I enjoyed the most, I think, was Jane's Q&A yesterday. That there were a lot of really good questions on there, and it was good to see her on and answering questions in UOS. All right, Akiva again is asking, will Unity 7 be able to converge?
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's we're not putting the work into Unity 7 to make it run on these mobile devices. All of that focus of all that energy is going into Unity 8. So Unity 8 will be the thing that does convergence. Unity 7 will be around to be used on desktops, and we've seen people run it on ARM-based devices. So if that's the sort of thing you want to do, then you can try it, but that's not its sole purpose.
Yeah, I had it running on the first generation Nexus 7 back a couple of years ago, and it was an interesting experience. It was a little bit too small a screen for that. But I know Unity 7 has a lot of touch features already, so if you're running it on a touchscreen laptop or something, you do get some of those benefits already. It just won't go down to a mobile phone form factor.
Yeah.
All right, Jess Caracas asks, why should we buy a BQ or MISO if they can't converge, being a big selling point?
It's still awesome fonts. I think if you want to get an early experience of what the Ubuntu phone is all about, it's not just about convergence. Although convergence is an important part, it's the great fonts to have. Otherwise, you can wait a bit longer until the new Converged device comes out, right? But I'm having a lot of fun with the scopes and writing apps for it and stuff like that. So I think I'd thoroughly recommend it. So really go ahead.
And convergence wasn't like a marketed feature for those devices, right? Because it's also sort of a partner decision as to what feature they want to put onto a device. And so the first BQ and the first Meizu, was a partner decision to not deliver that feature, even had it been available. So.
And if you don't have an Ubuntu phone right now, there's a lot of advantages just to having one. I mean, I've been using mine since about middle of 2013. So security advantages that it has over Android, the fact that you're running a full Linux distro with all the tools that you expect to be there on the command line. It comes with a terminal. You're able to do all kinds of neat hacking with it. There's just a lot of advantages to having an Ubuntu PC in your pocket. So even if it can't converge, just being able to have that makes it worth buying. Plus, the Meizu phone is really a beast of hardware from what I've seen of the specs. All right, Akiva asks, can you converge with the TV? Will, I know this is a favorite topic.
Yeah. the convergence concept is the TV, just the same as it is the phone and it is the desktop. The UI has the ability to switch modes, be it on a small sort of 4-inch screen up to a 40-inch screen. So at the point where the phone is able to play back your media or your music, it's able to connect to an external screen, and you can control it via a Bluetooth mouse or some kind of pointing remote control device. Then it is a TV in the same way that it is a desktop and it is a phone. So yeah, this is it. Ubuntu TV is on its way.
You were just ahead of your time back then, right?
Well, in fairness, none of the other smart TVs have caught on in this time period yet either. So I think there's still a lot of people trying to figure out what consumers want in a smart TV. So
yeah, I think the closest anyone's got to a sort of universal device is something like Chromecast, but the Chromecast protocol is obviously restricted. When we get something like an open standard for streaming video and audio over a wireless connection to a screen, then we're in good shape, and we should be able to capitalize on that.
So that leads nicely into the next question, which was, are Ubuntu phones working with Chromecast?
Shall I take that?
Sure.
No, they're not.
For all the reasons that he just mentioned.
Yeah, well, Chromecast is not the protocol is not, as far as I can tell anyway, it's not an open protocol. There have been a few sort of implementations of it, but Chromecast as a protocol, as a product, is not something that we interface with.
Yeah. All right, Carl Rischel is asking, does Snappy image-based Ubuntu require an image for each product with unique hardware drivers? So I gather he's probably talking more for the x86 world.
The answer is no. It's not like, there won't be an image for my XPS 12 and an image for your XPS 13. Similar to Ubuntu, how Ubuntu supports, a wide variety of hardwares out of the current images. We expect that in same behavior in when we embrace Snappy. So, you still have on the x86 world all the drivers that you need for all the components of your computer right there. And then there's a couple of interesting corner cases that are important. So I don't want to diminish their importance. Like DKMS, how does DKMS work in a Snappy world? We have discussed this. We have a plan. Going to put that to test and see if the plan holds up with reality. But that would solve that question as well.
So the fact that we have separate device images for all of these phones is nothing to do with the fact that we're using image-based installs, and it's just the fact that the hardware for these phones is requiring that.
Right.
Okay. All right, Linux asks, how does web developers use Ubuntu like Facebook developers? So I don't know, I'm not sure if any of the guys here have a lot of insight on that. If we had some people from the cloud side, I'm sure we would have a lot. I know a lot of web developers use Ubuntu as their developer workstation. It gives them all the tools that they need. It lets them run VMs or containers or whatnot to test their websites out. For example, I know Google uses it a lot internally for a lot of their work. I don't know about Facebook specifically, but I would not be at all surprised if a lot of Facebook's developers use Ubuntu or some form of Linux. And then, of course, you could use it for your web server itself. We've got a server edition. It's one of the most popular guests on all of the public clouds. We've got Juju, which makes it easy for you to wrap your website up in a script to make sure that it's installed properly every time and quickly and easily, and you can scale out as your site grows popular. So there's all kinds of ways that a web developer could use Ubuntu.
There's Ubuntu Make. Sorry, Ollie. There's Ubuntu Make as well, which makes the installation of IDEs and libraries and that kind of thing that much easier and There is a plan on in the future to make sort of web development and Ubuntu Make come together so that you can deploy your newly developed PHP powered website or Django powered website, fire it up in a container, test it out, and then throw the whole thing away again and be back to where you started. So yeah, as a development platform, we're doing a lot of work there to make it really easy.
From my last visit to the Facebook campus in the Valley, just conversations I had is they don't impose an OS to you as a developer, so you can go and buy a variety of Lenovo and laptops, MacBooks, whatever. So they have pretty broad portfolio of hardware that you can buy, and then with that, obviously, they don't really impose an OS. However, a lot of developers use Ubuntu either natively, on their Lenovo or whatever laptop, and if not natively, then in a VM, just because it integrates nicely with this larger ecosystem that Mike was describing earlier, Choo-Choo for deployment and all those goodies that we have on the cloud side of our business.
All right, Dev Moore has an interesting question. What is the point of convergence to you? This is to everyone on the panel. So who wants to go first?
I'll go first then. The point of convergence to me is that if I'm traveling on business or I'm going away for the weekend or something, I can take with me all of the connectivity and productivity that I want in my pocket. A business travel is a really good example of this. At Canonical, we travel quite a lot to sprints. We all stay in hotels. And when you're taking a week's worth of clothes and a laptop and a power supply and all the other bits and bobs, it can weigh you down. If I can just put a phone in my pocket and arrive at my destination and be able to do what I need to do, and then pick it up, put it back in my pocket and go home again, then that's going to be a huge, huge benefit to me.
So what Will said for me, and then I think we just see a new, I don't want to say new generation of devices, but like convertibles are kind of standard right now, and so I always keep referring to that XPS 12 I have in a love-hate relationship. So it's Dell's convertible, right? So right now I'm using it as a laptop, and then I can flip the screen and can use it as a tablet. And it would be nice if Unity would actually convert into the tablet mode if I'm sitting on the couch, when I'm sitting on the couch and browsing, So I think that's something. Then, as similar to what Will said, he's put it in the context of travel, but I have way too many devices in my house, and if we have that desktop and mobile convergence, and then on top maybe something for media, so we talked about TV earlier, I'd be happy as a clam to get rid of half of my devices that I have.
I think all of the stuff, of course, but I think also just the ability of having apps that work and are the same across all the devices. So you have a notes app or a podcast app or whatever, and then normally kind of struggling to find the right app that does the same thing on the desktop. Or with Telegram is interesting because they do have apps everywhere, so you can use the service very easily. I think with Convergence is the fact that the same app will sort of change and adapt to what you wanted to do and see whether it's in the same device or a different device. That's pretty powerful. That's something I kind of look forward to see more with Unity 8 on the desktop.
Yeah, I think using the same apps is really an underrated thing. That's an important thing that I'm looking forward to, just having all the same features. Having things like push notifications on the desktop that we are so used to having on the phone and we become dependent on the phone. We don't have that on the desktop right now. Nobody does. And so being able to have that's going to really change the desktop experience. But to get to what Will was saying, I actually published a post on my blog this morning about this. When I was with Will in London 2 weeks ago at the desktop sprint, we all took a trip into the Canonical offices before going out and meeting the Loco team there for drinks. And everybody was having to decide whether or not they were going to bring their laptop to the office because we were going to be there for a couple of hours. So they're all, do I bring my laptop so I can work, but then I've got to lug it around to the pub afterwards. I just brought my phone, and I spent a couple hours at the office doing work on my phone because it does everything I needed it to do. And it just so happened that the empty desk that I picked to do this at had an HDMI monitor there with a laptop dock and all the plugs and everything. And if I had the right adapter, in theory, I could have plugged my phone in and gotten a full workstation and done regular work. And then at the end of that, I just slipped it into my pocket and I went out to the pub. And so I was very close to experiencing true convergence there, and I want more of that. All right, moving along. Akiva asks, can you SSH into your phone and then switch it to desktop mode even when it is not hooked up to a monitor, so you can use the desktop mode remotely? So yes, you can SSH into your phone. Yes, you can switch the phone, or switch Unity 8 on your phone into desktop mode. I don't know what you mean by use the desktop mode remotely, though, because you would still be using it on your phone.
Well, X4.
Through a BNC sort of thing.
Yeah, exporting.
I don't think there's anything to do that just yet. Do we have a VNC or RDP server for Muir?
We don't. We have a client, but that would require a server. But like this, and there's another question coming along, like that touches the same topic of like wireless connectivity. It's definitely a technology that will be important for convergence. It doesn't matter if you transport the pixels through an SSH tunnel or through an RDP protocol or some other casting technology. So we're looking into that, but I think that's a little bit further out to have a better story and architecture in place for that.
Okay. Davmore again is asking, in the converged world, what app would you love to see flow fluidly from phone to tablet to PC to TV?
Browsers for me, because that's what I use
I was gonna say too, the browsers.
95% of the time. All my work, everything I do privately or for work for my job is in the browser. So
yeah,
media player would be pretty good also. I mean, just in terms of even be able to kind of switch the quality of the streaming based on what you connected to, and you can actually not waste the bandwidth if you don't have the quality to watch it. But be able to resume as you kind of coming into a higher bandwidth network and stuff like that, and hook it up to the telly. That would be pretty good also.
Yeah, I think music player would be a good example for that too. I think there's not many things right now that we do across all of these devices. I think looking up stuff on the internet, so having a browser would be the big one, and then consuming video and music.
Yeah, gaming would be pretty good also, I guess, if you.
I wouldn't mind a Podbird on my TV either. I think I could go for that. Games would be interesting too. I'm not sure what kind of input options they would have on the TV, but being able to have the same game across all those would be good. All right. Let's see. Gquigs asks, any plans to add at least supported until dates for devices? So far we haven't said when any of the devices we support will stop getting support, because right now we don't have any actual plans to stop supporting any of these. Do you know, Victor, if or when we might say something about that?
No, I mean, I think we will try to support these devices for as long as we can, because the first devices and like the people that have bought it, kind of people really want to see the journey of the phone, right? So I think as we stabilize a bit more with Snappy and so on, we may put more specific dates on future devices. Well, we can say, I guess, Ollie's team and my team are kind of working pretty hard to move the existing devices in the field right now into Vivid, and that will come as an over-the-air update, and we will continue to kind of produce over-the-air updates on a monthly basis, as we have promised for the time being.
All right. Here's a question about wireless convergence from Akiva. Can you converge wirelessly? Do you know what our options are for that in terms of hardware capabilities?
Yeah, so I think you can converge wirelessly. I mean, the only problems around wireless displays tend to be things like lag time and so on. But I think for the use case of running a desktop, they are fine. The main problem there is kind of power consumption. So you may not want to do that for a very long time without plugging in a cable for power. And once you doing that, you may as well plug a cable for the screen, right? But the technology is there. I mean, I think from our point of view, it's presented as another frame buffer to put stuff out into, so that it's not a big deal. It's just a question of, if you're thinking about the use case, if you are going into a meeting and you just want to do a presentation for half an hour, I think that works pretty well if you have a dongle with you. Otherwise, if you just want to sit at your home and work for a few hours from the phone, you would run out of batteries very quickly. So much better plugged, I think. So for the next device that we are looking at both, considering both options, but we definitely have support for cable, I think. That's for the meantime. But I think kind of induction charging will eventually catch up and be able to charge faster than the battery is discharged when you are wirelessly, and then happy days.
Yeah, that would be nice. That was one thing I noticed when I was working from my phone at the office, was that I was draining the battery pretty quickly. All right, Kiva again asks, when converged, can you use your phone as a mouse or touchpad?
So, do you want to take it? Go for it.
Well, I don't know. You tell me. Can you do? I think it's a question of. So theoretically, yes. So I had the pleasure of working for 3 months from my Ubuntu for Android device back in the days, and at that time we had that ability, and what it kind of comes down to is be able to drive the two displays separately, and that comes down to the hardware driver supporting it. So if we have a partner that wants to do this device, that's one thing. We need also support from the hardware SoC provider, so the GPU provider, to provide the ability to drive these two screens separately in order to have like a touchpad or a keyboard on the screen. Some devices support that, some others don't. So I think maybe a case-by-case situation. But like theoretically, yes, it is possible to do that, and actually fairly straightforward to do if the GPU supports it.
Cheeseburg is asking us, will developers have to make converged apps with Unity 8, or can they just do apps for specific forms, like making an app that works on phones but not on desktop? So I don't quite understand why you would want to do that.
I mean, I think
kind of out of the box.
Right. I mean, and remember that we have the side stage, right?
Right.
So if you write an app for a phone and you think that for whatever reason doesn't scale up to a full desktop, then you sort of can mark it within the SDK as a phone-only app. On your desktop, it will or in your tablet, it will appear within the side stage, which is this sort of phone-size window.
Right.
I'm not really sure. I mean, that's my question for Will, when that's coming to the desktop side stage.
I'll speak to the Unity 8 team and blame them.
But the design intention behind all of this was that apps would not know or care what kind of device they're running on. That the toolkit and everything is going to work properly on all of these different devices. So unless there's a specific hardware capability that your app needs that is specific to a form factor, then there's no reason to limit it. And even then, you're going to start having, I think there are already laptops that have a 3G modem in them, or you've got tablets the size of phones or phones the size of tablets. So there's a lot of blurring of the lines between these form factors, and we don't want to make those into barriers for apps. All right, moving along. Ulinux asks, does Ubuntu focus on low-price phones? Who wants to take that one?
I don't know if I'm on mute. Hi. I'll take that one, I guess, because it's a commercial question. So no, we don't. Specifically, we don't. I think the first device that we launched with PQ, we wanted to have something accessible for everyone. The next device that is the MX4 uses a bit of a beast of hardware. You can look at the MX4's price with Android right now. I mean, it's a much higher end device and a different price point, right? I mean, we want to have offering that matches what the people buy and they want to have. So it's not also that we're only going to have high-end phones, right? But we're not looking into rock bottom prices. I think the BQ phone that we launched, the Aquaris E4.5, that's probably, I would say, the lowest spec we will be targeting, or the lowest price point that we will be targeting, there or thereabouts. I don't think we'll be seeing Ubuntu phones going to the $25. That sort of the Firefox OS phone is going down to.
And if we go back to Ubuntu Edge, that was, what, an $800 phone we were planning on?
That's pretty expensive.
All right. Let's see, that's a duplicate. GQuigs asks, are there plans to converge already existing browsers like Chrome or Firefox so that they can work flawlessly between phone and desktop?
Shall I go? Well, so we've got the Ubuntu browser, which is going to be our focus for a convergent browser, a browser that will work on all form factors. We're going to have some features missing from the Ubuntu browser to start with that desktop users have come to expect. So we've been talking about, when we talked about it yesterday in one of the sessions, the idea that a traditional desktop browser such as Chromium could share information about what tabs are open with the Ubuntu browser, so that when you switch between modes, you could have the option of bringing up the traditional desktop browser. And I use Chrome as an example purely because there is a mere backend in the works. That you could bring up this desktop style browser and then share information between, like, what tabs you've got open onto the other browser. But there's no plans to do any work in Chromium or Firefox because the focus of our efforts is in the Ubuntu browser.
I think there's nothing stopping either of those from providing a Convergence UI for their apps, but it's not something that we're going to fork and build on top of them. And as far as I know, it's not something that either of them have plans for right now. All right, Arshroll asks, is there a plan for accessing user content in a click snap-based desktop? I can't imagine working on a latex project, for example, where I have to pass each file to each tool via the Content Hub.
So I think that's two questions, really. Accessing user content, sure. I mean, we want to make sure you can access your pictures and your documents and all that stuff. I think Content Hub is a feasible way to do that. I think the second part of your question is more like, not accessing the PDF that's at the end of the process, but like how does the chain of LaTeX related tools really work in a confined world? And I think the answer here is frameworks, where you can have that whole tool chain as a framework, or even in a snap, I suppose, and then they can do whatever they need to do within that confined area, and you can do all your processing there. However, the Snappy Core team, so our friends ASEC, MBO, Sergio, will probably have a way more, technical, detailed answer to that.
Now, I think if you have, if somebody made a LaTeX editor app, then you wouldn't have to pass files around to it. The app would own those files, and it would be able to run all of these tools against them without going through Content Hub.
Right.
All right, Cheeseburg asks, have 3 parties expressed interest in making Convergence apps? Are they, I guess that means third parties, Are they waiting for market share to increase or for Unity 8 Convergence to be finished? So obviously there's third-party interest in open source developers because we already have a bunch of open source converged apps in the store. So if we limit this just to commercial ISVs, do you guys know of any that have started working on a Convergence app, or do you think they're all waiting for us to actually have Convergence devices? Don't everyone jump in to answer all at once.
I was just saying that I think having a converged device that you can see and touch and people can develop for will be quite important. Also having a default Unity 8 experience will be quite important. I don't know what you think, Dolly.
Sorry, I got distracted on IRC. So I totally agree, because no, it's just there was another ping on IRC on the channel. So.
And doing convergence well does require design considerations and new design considerations. So I think even once the commercial ISVs decide that they want to do this, it's going to take them time to figure out how to do it for their apps. All right, this one's from Airbenders, and I'm going to assume it's for Will. Is that a horse head in the background?
Yes.
Yeah, the mafia. Right. The mafia was in Will's house.
If you have any more questions, keep asking them. Start them with the word question in all caps for me. All right. 007 asks, is system odor data encryption for the phone plan? Okay, so it is full system encryption planned for Ubuntu phones or devices in general.
Yes. Sorry.
I think we're losing you a little bit, Victor.
I'll just point to that one.
Okay. There's plans of partitioning the encrypting the partitions. I'm not up to date actually what the current status is. It's a key security feature, but I can't give you an exact answer right now off the top of my head. I would have to check with the security team.
Yeah, that's something I would imagine would go in at a lower level, at the Ubuntu core level, and work its way up to phone and desktop images. So you might want to find ASAC and ask him. He might know what's going on with that. All right, Cheeseburger is asking, are there going to be a new feature for Unity 8 desktop compared to Unity 7? Do developers, designers look at other OSs like Windows 10 or OS X for ideas and features? So I think to answer the first part of that, yes, there's definitely going to be new features in Unity 8 because there already are new features in Unity. Things like the new way of doing scopes, the new functionality that scopes offer. I mentioned push notifications earlier, though Stuart corrected me that Chrome itself has push notifications, but having it in any of your desktop apps is going to be coming. All the things like Content Hub, app confinement, really a lot of new features coming in with Unity 8. As far as the second part, I'm sure that our designers are looking at all of the competition, getting ideas from them, seeing what works well there and what doesn't.
Right. I think it's an ongoing evaluation and learning process of trends in the industry. That's by looking at the big players, but also looking at smaller, ideas from smaller groups. I think the key focus is really convergence and how to design a shell that works well on your 4-inch phone, your 7-inch tablet, and your whatever 50-inch TV. So I think that will be the key focus, and there will be it's kind of depending on how, if you want to call it a feature or not. In itself, I think convergence is a feature. So that's, I think, what will be the focus for this cycle.
Right. Just Karakis is asking, are there plans for a code editor that you can install on the phone, tablet, and desktop?
Yeah, we talked about this in one of the Convergence apps sessions yesterday. We plan to have the Ubuntu SDK packaged as a snap, so you'll be able to use that to edit code within Unity 8 on all of those devices. And we're also looking into something like gedit. So we've got a Mir backend in GTK, so that you can run GTK apps natively on Mir. And gedit is a pretty good example of a code editor that comes with lots of plugins for syntax highlighting and that sort of thing. So yes, there are plans to have a code editor, and Vi, of course, as well.
Have you tried gedit?
You sound like a Dalek.
We really can't hear you very well, Victor. Your audio is breaking up.
Might have to restart, Victor.
Try turning off your video and see if that helps. Nope. Didn't help.
No.
All right, so just going to add on to what Will said. There is already a text editor in the App Store that you can run on your phone. I don't know how well gedit would look on a 4.5-inch screen. But yeah, there's work going on different directions on that to provide something like that. I think the Ubuntu SDK would be one of the most interesting ones to have. All right, scroll down. Cheeseburger Gas. I read somewhere that in order for SDL games to use the Mir backend, they need to be packaged as a snap. Does that mean that snap games will work with Convergence?
Okay, Will went on mute again. That's throwing so many things in the same bucket. So let me just scroll to that question again. Let's see if I can find it here. So the STL support doesn't have to do anything with how it's packaged, so that we need to separate those two issues. I'm not sure if it's landed, but if it's not landed, it's really close to being landed in Mir, and will just be deployed with Mir, regardless if Mir will be deployed as a snap or a Debian package or whatever. So I think that's one part of the question. Once you have a game packaged as a snap, that would imply that it's running on top of the Mir and Unity 8 stack. It doesn't necessarily need Unity 8 if you want to do like a kiosk, sort of setup. So that's one aspect, and then it's up to the app how it implements convergence, how it implements support to transform the between the modes and how to behave there. By using, so typically native applications using our SDK will inherit that right away. With SDL, I don't think we have native support there. Will correct me if I'm wrong. And so you as the app developer would have to make sure that your landscape touch-based game would then work well on be transform accordingly between the different screen sizes and modes.
So was the question, do we have SDL support for Mir?
That was one of the questions.
Okay. Yeah, so we have a Mir backend for SDL 1.2 and for version 2 as well.
Is that upstream already, or is that still?
I believe it is, yes.
Okay, perfect.
And will that work on both PCs and phones? I know there's one thing we talked about a couple of weeks ago was something that needed full OpenGL and wouldn't work on OpenGL ES.
Well, that's slightly orthogonal to the point. I mean, SDL, if it has OpenGL ES support, then it will work, regardless of what hardware it's running on. But yeah, it's tricky because if the hardware or the drivers rather have support for OpenGL ES or only OpenGL, then that could be a potential issue. We can find out.
All right, let me go find the next question. If you guys have any more questions, go ahead and get them in now before we run out of time. All right, here's one from Ulinux. Will LXDE get smaller or faster in the future with Ubuntu? I think that's really going to be a question for the LXDE developers and the Ubuntu team. But let's broaden that. Will Snappy-based installs be smaller and or faster than traditional deb-based installs?
I don't think it really makes a difference. I think packaging is packaging. It doesn't have anything to do with execution speed.
Yeah. So on the performance side, I don't see why packaging format would impact it. You could argue that confinement adds more layers of redirection and indirection, but the teams have been really good to minimize those and use the technologies that we have at hand today to just come up with a zero penalty. Regarding size, so essentially a snap is a binary blob that is self-contained, so statically linked. That obviously implies larger use of disk space if you don't do it right, because you don't have the concept of shared libraries anymore as we know it in an unconfined world. There's pros and cons. I don't want to go into this whole argument, but I know that the Snappy core team is busy working on a feature that they call deduplication, where they want to take care of that quote-unquote waste of disk space. Details I would have to refer again to ASEC and his guys.
All right. Here's one from our old friend Stuart. Will the default phone apps shift to being snaps so that they can be updated independently of the OS release?
The phone apps, so you mean like what we call the system apps, Dialer, Messenger, and stuff?
Right. So already some of the apps that come default installed on the phone are click packaged and updated independently.
Right.
I know all of the core apps now are click packaged. Things like the browser, I don't think is. The messaging and phone, the dialer apps, I don't think are. Do you know if there's any plans to move those out into click or snappy packages?
I think because we, with the project Ubuntu Personal that we talked about at the very beginning, we want to have a common denominator for any such client device. And I'm not sure how much use you get out of the dialer on your desktop. So I think if we go with the common denominator approach, then the dialer would be a part that you would snap onto Personal to build the phone. So I think we would modularize it at that level and just have really the common subset of functionality and apps as part of the base image.
All right, we're almost out of time, so I'm going to try and get to the last few of these real quick. Just Caracas asks, is there a general VoIP client available? I don't think there is at this point. Not that I've seen anyway. Still can't hear you, Victor. If you want to answer it in the IRC, go ahead and do that. That might be better. All right, Cheeseburg asks, have payment options been added to the new Click or Snap store? Will there be subscription payments or just regular payment options? So there are currently regular payment options, just like we had on the previous desktop store. So that's there. I don't think subscription payments are an option yet. You would have to talk to Martin Albacete about that. It's Buno on IRC. Let's see, are there any other questions? Doesn't look like it, and we're just out of time now, so that worked out really well. Thank you, everyone on IRC, for all of these fantastic questions. Thank you, Ollie, Victor, and Will, for coming on and answering them for us. And I hope everybody enjoys the rest of the last day of UOS. Don't forget, we've got the track summaries at the very end, where you can find out about all of the interesting sessions you missed over the past 3 days. So we will see you all then. Have a good one.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for your questions and your interest.